Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Battle Swine again. I'm going to be doing a reading of Chapter 7 of A New Element, which is, of course, a story of my own author. I am going to be doing a recording session with my good friend and my now producer and a lover of the arts,
Hello.
Atticus Novell.
Howdy, hello.
And it's just going to be a good time, like it always is on the show. We're going to be hanging out. We are, of course, going to be cracking one.
Oh, yep, thank you for bringing one for me to crack.
But, of course, my good friend, we're going to be starting with... Yep. Let's start with just a little short introduction, like I always do.
And we'll both be doing a little reading. He said he wanted me to be involved with a little bit of the fun, so...
In previous recordings, I've had an audience, but they've been very, they haven't been participating very much, which I thought was a shame, because this really is just a cringe fest for everybody, and I just like to share.
Well, that's like almost the fun of cringe. The more people you can get involved in it, the better.
I just like to share. And I'm going to explain a little bit to Atticus here. This is just something that I've been working on for a long time, and it's just a project that it'd be really sad for it to not be finished. And that's why it's nice to do the narration recordings, because it's a dedication to the art. This is a project that is near and dear to me. It'd be a shame to let it go to waste. So, without further ado, let's jump into Chapter 7 of A New Element. The name of the chapter is, and it's getting really hard to come up with chapter names, which is just really one of the more clever chapter names I've come up with, because it just really shows how much of a fucking tool that I am.
I know of this story, and I know of the chapter names and the ... and thing going on here, and I'm appreciating it.
I regret the decision.
Honestly?
Yeah.
Like, I can tell with just this headline that, like, your amount of regret. And it's getting really hard to come up with chapter names. That's just, like, the epitome of where you've come to it, so... Okay. I suppose. It's like a perfect work of satire, but I suppose that was the point of the chapter. Let's get to it.
Jumping into it again, feet first, we come into one of these, like, narration parts, which it's written in the style of a play, and it's voiced by the various parts of John, my main character's body, basically. It's like an inside-out sort of deal, or like a Ed's head or whatever.
Yeah, like Inside Out, only like way more cut and dry.
John's heart, and this is at the end of Chapter 6, which is where John feels bad because he's abandoned Nurse Redheart at the edge of the woods. I'm sure that the listeners know where we are at this point. "My soul, what have you done?" Heart says. And Brain says, I don't know. I didn't know what to do, so I had us run. Which is understandable, fight or flight reflex. And Dick says, "You did the right thing, Brain," because Dick is like, "Man, we had to get out of there. Sometimes you just gotta run." Mouth says, "I'm taking Heart's side with this one. There's nothing wrong with the little kiss. Dutchie was always kissing us, and there wasn't anything wrong with that. Not every sign of affection has to be sexual, Dick." And Dick says, "Ugh, don't remind me. Besides, it's my job to be gutter-minded. I'm the Dick." Hart responds, "Never mind that. The point is that was an asshole move, and something needs to be done about it. Go back." Brain is like, "Nah. To go back would be even worse. We all need some time. We'll just keep wandering around in the woods until we feel better." And Hart concludes, "Fine. But there will be words with that filly sooner or later." And so we come on to John's internal narrative. I suppose, would you wanna kick it off by reading a couple of these paragraphs?
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Pass it off when you're done.
What's wrong with me? Why do I have to fuck everything up? I screamed to the forest, punching a tree. The foot-thick pine rattled and needles rained down on me as I felt the jarring cold pain of my knuckles splitting open. I punched it again, leaving red spots on the bark. No matter what I do or where I am, the only thing I can do right is hurt people. What appeared to be a cross between a lion, a bat, and a scorpion, apparently drawn by my emotional turmoil, appeared out of the underbrush near me. And just what the hell do you want? The creature growled threateningly at me. Yeah, well, look me in the eyes, motherfucker. Either put the stinger in my neck where it belongs, or fuck right off. I'm not in the fucking mood to fuck around right now. To my own surprise, the creature whimpered and backed away. I pondered this for a few seconds. It's likely the creature is not actually afraid of me, but instead of afraid of something much bigger. I turned around only to find a pair of blood-red eyes inches from mine. Giving a quick look over it, the monster appeared to be a massive snake, almost as thick as my waist, and long enough for its tail to reach all the way around the clearing and scorching the shrubs 30 feet away. Its red eyes sent a chill down my spine, and a golden crest flipped up on its head as a menacing growl bubbled up from beneath its blackened lips. With a sudden revelation, I realized this guy exactly matched the description of a basilisk, the king's serpent of old. It all made sense now. If unicorns and pegasi exist here, why shouldn't other mythical creatures? Look at the back.
I've always been sort of an animal whisperer. I can tell what a lesser creature wants or needs by the way it moves or breathes. And I could tell that unlike the scorpion lion thing, the basilisk's growl wasn't a get out of my territory growl, but instead an I'm going to eat you alive and digest you slowly growl. As the creature reared back to strike, my hand darted forward and grabbed the dangly red things under its chin. Oh honey, you picked the wrong day to piss me off. Squeal for me. One needlessly violent murder later, the basilisk now lay twitching on the ground, an unnatural crink in its neck, and a yellow fluid that I assumed to be its blood flowing unbidden from its mouth. I pulled out my apes and put them on. Cock-a-doodle-doo, motherfucker. You know, 'cause rooster's crow is one of the only things that can kill a basilisk. Yeah, Mike made me play too many fantasy RPGs. Though the knowledge may come in handy now that I'm stuck in a fantasy world of sorts. It's too bad Mike can't be here, 'cause he'd probably love it. He'd also probably know how to get us both home. He was always the smart one. Oh, Mike, I wish you were here. I sat down on a nearby log and lit a cigarette to replace the one I'd left behind in my hasty retreat. For the first time in years, a tear rolled down my cheek. The creature I now recognized as a Greek manticore approached and touched my hand with his nose. On impulse, I reached up and petted its mane, and what do you know? It started purring like a house cat. Yeah, you just act tough, Fluffy. I actually am. Indeed. With a start, I looked up towards my most recent kill. My new manticore friend backed away and hissed at the newcomer. I thought I was hallucinating. A creature who appeared to be an amalgam of other creatures, like if some psychopath had cut apart a petting zoo and glued it back together wrong.
Isn't that all mythical creatures?
Yeah.
Like from the whole.
So, I guess the readers know who this character is. This is Deceit, who is one of several Draconic Y siblings. And do you know who Discord is within the narrative of My Little Pony?
Yeah, I do.
Deceit is his little brother, his littlest brother. And Deceit is basically the mouthpiece of the conglomerate that is the several Draconic Y siblings. Discord is not a member of this conglomerate. Discord represents the chaotic element of disloyalty. And he is not loyal to his family at all. So that's why Discord is a separate entity.
I suppose. The sheer nature of Discord is just to be not aligned with everything else.
Ironically, Discord is the most dangerous of his siblings because he works as a rogue element where his siblings tend to be weaker when they're apart. And yeah, Discord is not like part of this whole deal at this point. He'll become important later, but he'll, for the most part, he's not like a part of this. For the most part, we're focusing on his siblings as antagonists for this story. It had a long, thin body of a snake. It had a thong, and a matching pit viper head. It stood upright, a tiny claw on its hip. All of its limbs were scaly and reptilian, though I could tell one of its pseudo-hands was a chameleon grasper, the other a gecko's paw, and its legs were both the didactyl raptor feet. The whole thing was a little less than 2 feet tall. You want to take it?
Who the hell are you? Or more appropriately, what the hell are you? As for who I am, my name is unimportant. As for what, I am the same as you, a kindred spirit. We share a goal, human. Its voice was smooth and comforting, like silken sheets. Human, you know what I am, without me telling you. Of course I do. Our people were once allies, though it has not been too long since I've seen one in the flesh. It jumped off the dead basilisk and slunk to the center of the clearing. Last I heard, the Solar Queen was organizing your fellows into concentration camps. I wouldn't know anything about that. I just got here. Yes, you did, and I'm sure you're scared and confused. But don't worry. We'll get through this together, won't we? Nah, you sound like Red. Unless you can get me home, or even a stiff drink, I've got nothing to say to you. I stood and turned to leave. Frankly, I got a weird feeling he was bullshitting me. Solar Queen? Concentration camps? Ooh, I'm scared. I deal with this shit on my way to real problems, like where my underwear are.
Actually, I might be able to help you on the former. I have powerful friends in powerful places. They might do a favor for a favor if you catch my meaning. This caught my attention. What kind of favor?
A sexual favor, isn't it?
It's not a sexual favor. My friends require certain items of importance, items that would best be retrieved by you. Didn't your ma ever tell you stealing was wrong? I replied. To be fair, they were taken from us first. Ah, so my new serpentine acquaintance had a stake in this as well. Don't commit to anything, I told myself. I'll think about it. Ah, of course. No need to make a decision right away. He held up a paw and began swaying it through the air. At the same time, his skin began to pulse in bright colors. The whole effect was so distracting I didn't notice the thrashing in the underbrush to the right. I felt myself slipping away in those pretty colors. In fact, I suggest that you sleep on it. And I'm gone. And I'd just like to point out at this moment that within the narrative, this wasn't magic that he was just doing on John. This was regular run-of-the-mill human hypnotism. He just put him to sleep using hypnosis, which to me was meant to hint that he has a lot of knowledge of humanity that he's not letting on about. But I don't know if anybody misunderstood that. This isn't like actual magic he's doing on John. This is regular run-of-the-mill human hypnosis.
Alright.
A few minutes earlier, la 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 la, and another thing I'd like to point out is, like,
excuse me.
Within the narrative of this story, I switch between first person, which is John narrating the story as if he's experiencing it, and the third person watching somebody, another character, not John, doing other stuff. And from this is from the perspective of me, basically, the author, God. And
that's fucking powerful.
Well, yeah, that's part of the fun thing about writing a story. So, la 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 la, Fluttershy sang as she gathered flowers for her lunch. She'd finally managed to work the kink out of Mr. Bear's back, and worked up quite the hunger while she was at it. And if she ate too much at the picnic later, her friends might think she was a pig. Not that there was anything wrong with pigs, she was sure they were all wonderful. Anyway, she didn't want to eat too much at the picnic, hence the flowers. Fluttershy's mental insecurities aside, when Mr. Manticore roared in agony near the edge of the forest, she was so startled that she threw the entire basket into the air and hid behind the nearest stump. When the flower explosion cleared, she peeked out from behind the stump before berating her lion-like friend. Mr. Manticore, please don't scare me like that. Mr. Manticore mewed plaintively and tugged her tail. It's important? The Manticore nodded and gestured to the forest. Your friend is in danger. It nodded again and growled. Fluttershy raised an eyebrow. You want to lick my what? The beast face-pawed and growled louder. Oh, I thought you said something completely different. In that case, there's no time to lose.
I love... I can just see your care slowly slipping away, and I love it. Like, with every word that we're reading, you can just see you slowly starting to care less and less, and I hope that your readers also enjoy that part of it.
It gets better in the new chapters. At time of recording,
Well, it's like the good type of not caring. It's like the reckless endangerment of, like, your own intellectual property other than, like, self-destructive. It's fucking glorious.
It is very fun, I will agree with that. And at time of recording, I'm about to publish the new chapter. And, man, it's just so interesting as a fan fiction writer, posting chapter by chapter rather than being able to work on the whole project at once. It updates. It's like a TV show.
Yeah.
In a very interesting way. You get people's reaction to stuff, and it changes the way you want the characters to work almost.
It's like TV shows, only it has way more LGBTQA representation. I wish, like, TV networks were like freaking fanfiction websites. You'd have, like, the craziest media ever. You'd never be bored.
There is a lot of media that is actually inspired.
You'd have to censor a lot of it. Like, kids couldn't see that.
There is a lot of media that is inspired by fan fiction. I mean, look at 50 Shades of Grey.
Successful. A good read. Best. I'm just kidding. It was okay.
I mean, I've never
read movies, books. They were okay.
As a guy who reads,
like, it was awful writing, honestly. Like, the movies are kind of what saved it in popular culture. Like,
haven't had the pleasure of reading myself.
They're not great reads. Like, if you ask, like, anybody who knows what a good book is, they're not gonna say 50 Shades of Grey. Like, anybody who, like, wants to be, like, up to date with popular culture, they'll be like, who's a good singer? Katy Perry. What's a good book? 50 Shades.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, I feel you.
Good or bad, fan fictions for life.
No, and that's the organic. It's the same kind of organicness that I'm trying to apply to this recording. Okay, we're just gonna continue because one thing I didn't want to do is spend a lot of time fucking around like I have in previous installments. And so the shy pink-maned Pegasus pony and the massive melodramatic Manticore fled into the ever-free forest. A few minutes. Do you like that alliteration? Into the ever-free forest. A few minutes of thrashing about brought them to a clearing. Just as they broke through the underbrush, a bright flash blinded them both. Fluttershy's vision cleared just in time to see a tall, two-legged creature topple to the ground.
Stop it.
Cracking its head on a fallen log. Wasting no time, Mr. Manticore dashed to its side, using his horns to scoop up the strange creature onto his back. Fluttershy was a little distracted by the dead basilisk. The Manticore moved to her side, still carrying her rescuer. A tear ran down her cheek. What happened? Okay, Fluttershy is like hippie to the extreme. She sees a dead animal. It doesn't matter if it's a fucking basilisk. This motherfucker turns bitches to stone. There is very little redeeming factors to a fucking basilisk. And Fluttershy is just broken up about it. She's like, oh my god, what happened? A tiny sound gurgled out of the Greek monster's throat. It attacked you and then this creature saved you? It would have had to be really hungry to attack you. Mr. Manticore inclined his head and grumbled. And then another weird creature appeared. And it reminded you of Discord? This is pretty serious. She seemed to notice the biped for the first time. He appeared to be fast asleep, but he was bleeding badly from various wounds on his head. Some of them were old, but the one on his back was new. The creature had a strange aura about him, almost foreboding. But he was hurt, and it was Fluttershy's job to help hurt animals. So, obviously I wrote all of this like a long fucking time ago, but one thing that's bothering me about a couple of years ago, Battleswine's writing, is that he's not paying attention to the fact that you can't start a sentence with but. And I feel like at the time I was like, oh yeah, I'll just put but. I'll start the sentence with the word but. And
there's a rule for that, isn't there?
Yeah, it'll be part of my writing style. But now that I'm writing a lot more seriously, I have to say, I'm paying attention to grammatical rules like that.
Well, yeah, it's just a good idea to be sharp about that.
Here, why don't you take it from...
It was
Fluttershy.
It was Fluttershy's job to help hurt animals.
Yep.
She turned to the Manticore. We'll take him to Zecora's. It's closer, and she might know what he is. She looked at the biped uncertainly before picking up a pair of sunglasses on the ground. Maybe. In response to this, the creature grunted and rolled in his sleep. Fluttershy knocked on Zecora's door with a hoof. Please be there. Please be there. Zecora wasn't the most reliable medicine mare. She was often out gathering ingredients, or so deep in meditation she could completely ignore knocks on her door. Several times before, the yellow Pegasus had simply left without a word rather than interrupt the zebra, but this was important. There was an animal in danger. The creature gurgled again. He was bleeding hard from his head, and his forelimbs had been scraped red and raw. It must have been some sort of circus animal. He was wearing a costume. He must have escaped into the Everfree Forest and got lost.
Fluttershy isn't aware that John is sentient at this point, which was a fact that was funny to me, because, like, that's not something that you would do in her situation, is just assume that something is capable of understanding its own, like, existence.
Are you referring, is the costume
his clothing?
Just
Yes.
his clothes? Okay. I was a little confused. Just randomly wearing like a circus clown. I think it's funny. She heard of strange creatures being captured across the ocean and being brought to Equestria, but that was extremely illegal. It was no wonder he escaped. He must have been very tough or very sneaky to survive in the Everfree Forest for that long. Even 15 minutes among the enchanted trees could be dangerous to those who aren't careful. After an agonizing wait, Zecora finally answered the door. Ah, Fluttershy, what a surprise. Why is there such panic in your eyes?
So, the one thing that I pointed out with this chapter is that I picked a whole chapter basically dedicated to two of the hardest characters to write for, which is Fluttershy and Zecora. Fluttershy is a very distinctive personality. She's hard to write accurately. And Zecora speaks in fucking rhyme. Zecora, ironically, is actually easier to write for because speaking in rhyme is like her only personality trait.
Yeah. Other than, I guess, yeah.
I'll take it. Fluttershy, what a surprise. Why is there such panic in your eyes? Zecora, I found this poor thing out in the woods, and I need a place to put him, and also I need to borrow some bandages because he's bleeding. Fluttershy's freaked the fuck out. Fluttershy blurted before she could stop herself. If it's okay with you. Of course. Let me banish this unwanted guest, and then we'll allow your friend to rest. She returned to the hut, and a few seconds later a brown colt stumbled out, followed closely by the resident zebra. She shouted at him, "Now, I hope this little mess has been sorted. I am not some love-struck mare to be courted." She gestured for Fluttershy to come inside. And the Manticore followed. She was less panicked now that they were safe at Zecora's. "Who was that?" Zecora shook her head. Just a smitten cold who bothers me to no end. But never mind that. Let's see to your friend. Mr. Manticore laid the animal on the floor. So Fluttershy refers to the Manticore character as Mr. Manticore because that's what she calls him in her head. Meanwhile, John has already come to call the Manticore in his head Fluffy because that's just he comes up with nicknames for people. That's one of the things he does. And I think that that's also another funny thing to me because I'm writing for the third person, but the third person is focused on Fluttershy's character. Mr. Manticore laid the animal on the floor and began snuffling at him worriedly. To the zebras and the Pegasus's surprise, the creature spoke. 5 more minutes, payback. Zecora took a closer look at him before jumping back and exclaiming, Kidole Pepo! What is it, Zecora? Fluttershy peeked out from her sudden hiding place beneath Zecora's cauldron. Zecora, in her distress and haste to convey the information, forgot the zebrakin tradition of rhyming when speaking other language. So this is writing shorthand that I like to call just making shit up, because I just made this bullshit up because I was sick of having Zecora have to rhyme. But yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it's a zebrakin tradition. When they go to other countries and they speak other languages, it's traditional to rhyme so that you can be a fucking hipster, I guess. A Kidole Pepo, a fingered demon. In the time before peace, they came in the night and stole young zebra foals away and transformed them into monsters. But that's not possible. They went extinct after the time of war. Where did you find him, Fluttershy? He was just in the woods when Mr. Manticore led me to him. He fell down and hit his head on the log. She gestured to his head wound, which was currently bleeding all over Zecora's floor. His blood was a darker shade of red, and it didn't have the rainbow sheen bony blood had. Speaking of which, we should probably bandage that up. Mr. Manticore, could you hold his head for me, please? The Manticore used his tail to prop up the demon's head, while Fluttershy used her mouth to wrap the borrowed linen bandages around it. Every time her snout brushed his face, he giggled in his sleep. Ooh, you should take it. My mouth's getting dry.
Quit it. Payback. That tickles. He didn't seem to be pained by the wounds at all. When the Pegasus was done tending to his wounds, she leaned up and glomped him with her hooves. How could you be a demon who kidnaps foals when you're so cute? The zebra couldn't deny that the creature was appealing, with the funny round ears and golden tuft of hair, but it was just a ruse to lull one into a false sense of security. Zecora was sure of it. Since she was a foal, the elders of her village had told cautionary tales of zebras who wandered the savannah alone. How they would be taken away and turned into monsters. They returned to the village they came from, to haunt their friends and family. She shivered at the thought. Fluttershy, could you be a dear and not go so near? I'd suggest a healthy dose of fear. His murderous intentions are clear.
I'm pretty proud of that one.
Zecora remembered the rhyming tradition as she noted the basilisk blood that was staining the creature's garments. He had killed, likely to fuel his carnivorous rage, and to murder a basilisk. Did you start a sentence with "and"? Just a note.
Yeah.
Nice one.
I'm not proud of that.
Nice one. And to murder a basilisk was a nearly impossible feat. He was a demon and a monster, just like the one who starts sentences with "and."
Yeah, I get it, dude. But look at his little face! She moved the demon's jaw up and down to simulate speech. Zecora! I robbed you! You take half of me until I wake up! Zecora was just slightly disgusted at this display.
Slightly disgusted.
And slightly confused at Fluttershy's suggestion.
Disgusted.
What?
Highly intrigued.
Fluttershy explained. Zecora, I have a picnic to attend soon, and I can't bring this demon with me. He's too heavy and he's asleep. Also, since you know so much about him, it only makes sense for you to keep an eye on him. You know, if you're not doing anything. Basically, Fluttershy's conning Zecora into this. And she's like, no, absolutely not. The demon shall not stay in my hut. Which is not a perfect rhyme, but it works. I'll give you 5 bits, says Fluttershy, because if you make it 10, replies Zecora, you can count me in. Which also is not a perfect rhyme, but I mean...
God damn it. I would have made those 2 lines rhyme like she already had it planned in her head, like, no, absolutely not. The demon shall not stay in my hut. I'll give you 5 bits.
God,
oh, damn. That's what's up.
I fucking hate this fucking garbage so goddamn much.
Hey, I could tell you were hating it as you were doing it, but let's keep going.
And so it was settled, until both mares noticed the demon was awake. Their eyes widened as it leaned up and looked first at Zecora, then at Fluttershy. Then it spoke in a thick growl that made their coats stand on end.
Ooh.
Did you just sell my ass for chump change?
Hey.
Hey! Shit's lit. And then author's note, hey, you know those 2 characters that you have trouble writing for?
Yeah, Fluttershy and Zecora.
Oh, why don't we put in a really long dialogue section between them?
That's such a fucking bad idea.
Too late! Okay, so yeah, hold on. Let's take a look at the comments before we end the recording.
Okay.
Oh, man. People...
Oh, man.
I'm not a fan.